By the way, it's not a ghost.
Hello. Welcome.
Squirrel.
She just said squirrel for no reason. Hello, everybody. Welcome to... This is Common Censored. Common Censored is also a podcast. You can check this out as a podcast, too. I'm joined by Eleanor Goldfield.
Hello. I'm here from the beginning this time.
That's right. Last week, you stepped out for the first 10 minutes. But
I didn't step out. I hadn't stepped in yet.
You stepped not in for the first 10 minutes. That is correct. We will
Couldn't
talk.
find the stage door.
It's very complicated here. It's actually through this bookcase. So, hello, everybody. We're going to get into what's been going on in Peru, updates on that. You probably heard me cover it, a couple of months ago, but it continues to develop. And we're going to go into a big win that just happened in Alaska. We're going to go into what prisoners are selling now. And it's not what you think in the United States.
It's not SIM cards.
It's not SIM cards, not cigarettes. But yeah, we got a lot of news coming up. Maybe even revelations on what Louisiana has been doing to their horrible prison population. I don't mean the prison population is horrible. I mean the fact that they have a huge prison population is the horrible thing. But yes, we got a lot of news for you. A lot coming here. Please share this. Please click thumbs up. Please get quick join. Everybody get that? Everybody get all that? All right. And we are live. Let's do it, man. So first, I wanted to give you an update on Peru because Peru continues to fight. They, as most of you know, Peru has been the latest victim of a U.S.-backed coup. It's not exclusively the work of the U.S., but the U.S. is clearly involved in it. As I've covered before, a former CIA agent who's an ambassador in Peru met with the Peruvian Secretary of Defense the day before this coup took place. And the following day, the military, along with Congress, turned on Castillo, turned against President Castillo. So it's kind of like they did it out in the open this time, this U.S.-backed coup. They used lawfare. That's their preferred method of cooing people now is lawfare. It looks a little better than,
also sounds kind of snazzy.
Than the self-inflicted 2 bullets to the head. This tends to look better. So they say the Peruvian protests continue. National protests across the nation head to Lima. And I thought it'd be useful, if Eleanor will allow, to go through the list of events, the play-by-play. Well, you know.
Do I have veto power on this?
You do. Would you like to veto? I've just covered your face, apparently.
My face.
That's my answer.
Yeah. No, I will not use my veto power on this.
Okay, and everyone wait to see what she does use her veto power on. We have a story coming up soon called Unflattering Photos of Eleanor from when she was a small child. Is that what you'll use your veto power on?
Actually, you know what? I wouldn't, because I am proud of what I went through to get here today. And a lot of it has to do with some very unflattering pictures of me as a child. So you know what?
You're acting like I don't have any unflattering photos of myself.
No, you have lots. But I'm just
was
saying,
a perfectly round child.
I wasn't perfectly round. I was imperfectly round.
For a while, I thought my parents were giving me a compliment. They kept telling everyone I'm well-rounded. Turns out, no, literally.
That was a dad joke.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
No, that was a dad joke.
It
sounds like something my dad would have said about me. Like, Eleanor's so
that
well-rounded.
That sounds way more clever than your dad would have been. Your dad would have just called you Kathy Bates from Titanic and walked away.
He did call me unsinkable. That is true. But joke's on him because fat floats more than muscles. So, but also it does sound like something he would have said.
Oh, by the way, I should address this real quick. Someone in the chat has asked whether we're going to comment on the Chinese balloon. But here's the thing. I don't like to be the same as every other show when every show is flipping out about the same goddamn topic. I like to be the show.
We talk about being chubby children.
Yes, that we spend most of our time about being chubby children. No, but for the actual slated topics, not the bullshit tangents. I like to cover the things that are not being covered on all your mainstream media outlets. But I will say this, that it seems overly obvious that this is a meteorological balloon, a weather balloon that has a lot of advanced equipment on it, because weather balloons nowadays do. And it's gone off course, because here's the thing. If China wants to spy on the United States, they're going to use fucking satellites like every advanced country is doing. The U.S. is spying on China with satellites. China's spying on the U.S. with satellites. Russia's spying on everyone with satellites. That's how it works now. You don't need a balloon drifting across. It'd be like sending a covered wagon from China across the U.S. Chinese covered wagon has appeared.
Yeah, I have no comment because it just feels too ridiculous. I mean, what is there even to say? Like, oh, that's hilarious. Oh, that's weird. Oh, that's. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't even. Really have a comment.
the U.S. is using it for hysteria because it's useful in the new Cold War against China. It's useful. That's why they're using it. If China did it intentionally, would you intentionally put yourself on a possible path towards nuclear Armageddon because if your fucking balloon went off course? Like, no. All right.
Also, can I just say that when I first read in the news that there was a balloon that had gone awry, my initial thought was, remember the Darwin Awards? The guy who like attached a bunch of balloons to his lawn chair and then ended up getting like taken up into the fucking.
Did he die?
Yeah, yeah.
I have
And that was like one of my favorite
it sounds
Darwin Awards,
familiar.
and I was like, "Oh God, please let it be something like that."
It sounds familiar.
Alas.
I'd forgotten he died, but yeah, there was a guy who tied a bunch of high-grade balloons
Yeah,
to a lawn chair
Yeah.
so that he could like fly away. And then inevitably, the thing that everyone thought would happen happened.
because like I feel like there was something specific that he wanted to see. I can't remember exactly, but it was fucking marvelous. And I thought
He wanted to see that the Earth was flat. By the way, that's the other Darwin Award. You know, the guy that shoots rockets up in the air, as you know, he was like setting records for homemade rockets, manned homemade rockets, and he wanted to go higher so he could prove the Earth was flat, and he died.
Okay, well, we're getting into off topic anyway.
We need to
let's get back
to Peru.
See what happens.
Yeah. Does that mean it's my fault or your fault?
It's your fault.
Okay. Timeline of events. December 7th, the surprise winner of the July 2020 first presidential election, Castillo. And by the way, he was or is left wing, and so that that made him immediately under attack from the right, which is also endorsed by the United States. And I don't know if you know this, the U.S. has a lot of money to play with in order to fuck up anyone who dare be on the left. On December 7th, now they've moved on to 2022. On December 7th of last year, he attempts to dissolve Congress before it can debate a third impeachment motion. So people point to this and they go, yeah, but he tried to get rid of Congress. So clearly he's a dictator. Well, they had steadily been impeaching him for nonsense. And under Peruvian law, it is legal for the president to get rid of Congress. Also, it is legal for Congress to get rid of the president with a 60% vote. So they have a million presidents because no president lasts more than a year because they always find 60% to get rid of him. But anyway, so he dissolved Congress. He's then immediately arrested. Lawmakers vote overwhelmingly to remove him from office for moral incapacity. He's arrested for a quote-unquote rebellion. Vice President Dina Boluarte becomes president's first woman president. Yay, wokeism. She says she intends to serve out the rest of Castillo's term until 2026. The U.S. immediately pledges support for Boluarte. Big surprise there. December 11th, 2 people are killed in, God, should I even try? Andahuaylas. Thank you. In the south. December 12th, hundreds of protesters temporarily blocked the airport runway, Peru's second biggest city. December 14th, Peru announces a 30-day nationwide state of emergency. December 15th, Castillo's pretrial detention is prolonged for 18 months. December 16th, the pro-Castillo protests spread to the town of Cusco, the gateway to Peru's tourist attraction, Machu Picchu. I know how to pronounce Machu Picchu. That one I can do. That one rhymes.
Does it?
January 9th, 2023, 18 people are killed. So now the protests continue and they have become deadly. Prosecutor's office says it will investigate Boluarte for genocide over the protests. Here's the thing. I think Boluarte is a horrible leader who's endorsing, God damn it, who's endorsing
You
a
just
right
ate
wing,
my face. Is
who's,
really what this is.
who's endorsing a US backed coup. But I don't think the largest definition of genocide could include killing 18 protesters. I hate that. I hate dilution of important words.
I know. I mean, what is the? I'm not saying it's 18. What's the cutoff there?
21. 21 people killed.
There's got to be some number, or is it just like?
Well, there are debates about this, so they can say, "Oh, it's an effort to kill an entire people." So if you tried and you only got
then
one,
it's an attempted genocide.
yes, and then they say, "Oh, cultural genocide is the one they like to use now." China is doing a cultural genocide against the Uyghurs, which is not true, but still, cultural genocide is
cultural genocide is something I heard with regards to indigenous peoples in the U.S. because that is
they literally were trying to wipe out their entire history, culture. Yeah.
Anyway, but regardless of the terminology, it's clear that that protesters are being murdered in the streets, and that's obviously fucked.
Yeah, it should say. Now I'm the one shaking the table the whole time. It should say they're investigating her for endorsing the fucked. That's what it should say instead of genocide.
Lost in translation there.
I doubt it.
Okay.
I mean, maybe, I don't know.
See if you can cover my face again.
I bet I could. Okay, let's see here. 24th, Lima sees its most violent clashes since the start of the clashes continue to be punctuated by thousands to the Capitol, anti-government rally. By the way, you would never see any of this in the United States. We don't actually stand up and fight back. January 26th, the government says police and soldiers will dismantle roadblocks erected by protesters on the nation highways. January 28th, Congress rejects a request by Boluarte to advance elections to December of this year. So basically, in an effort to try and calm the protests, nationwide protests, the current president said, let's have elections this coming December, and the right-wing Congress said no. January 31st, so this is up to just a few days ago, the Peruvian foreign minister, I love this, led in Washington, D.C. a meeting between Peruvian businessmen and their counterparts from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Representatives of multinational companies from mining, finance, technology, and health, among other sectors, attended the event. So they're basically coming together to figure out how to gut Peru and make boatloads of profit from it.
So I'm just curious, is this Boluarte, is she horrifying or not? Because she wanted to bring up the elections, but she's also kind of seemingly chill with people being murdered in the streets.
So what I read is that she, although she's of Castillo's party, she made it, which is why she was vice president, she's made it pretty clear even before he was gone that she's had some pretty severe turn to the right and is willing to work with the United States wholeheartedly. Whereas Castillo was at least left enough that he understood that the U.S. empire has destroyed Latin America for mucho years. So there you go, folks. That is the update on Peru. There continue to be protests across the country, and people are fighting back against this U.S.-backed coup.
Yep. How do you spell that?
With a U.
So it's Coupery, and the
why is there a P?
There's a P in coup.
I know, I'm kidding. All right, let's move on to.
I agree, Coopery would be better.
Coopery. Let's move on to a big win, a huge win for Alaska.
Well, the planet in general.
The planet in general, although as with all wins, it's not necessarily permanent, but for now, it is a massive win.
So Pebble Mine, this has been something, I feel like I first heard about it years ago, which is really how these things work, right? These are fights that take sometimes decades to lose or to win, and in this case, it's a big win for the folks who have been fighting against the Pebble Mine project, and that's predominantly indigenous folks, just like a lot of environmental fights out there. So this would have taken place in Southwest Alaska, and this would have been the largest mine in the world, which among the largest open pit mines in the world, excuse me, for rare earth minerals, which if you've seen images of open pit mines, they're fucking massive. There's not like a small open pit mine. So
Simply the
say,
term open pit
yeah,
tells you not good, not good.
It's what we call a descriptive definition.
See, they've failed to do the euphemism, like with liquid natural gas.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they need to come up with some like a breathable Earth gets to breathe mine or something like.
So basically, it would have been the one of the largest open pit mines in the world, and the EPA, which this is an interesting point, the EPA has only vetoed a project like this 3 times in the past 30 years.
Jesus Christ.
The EPA, whose
For
job is supposedly to protect said environment, has only vetoed 3 in 30 years. That's,
in case you need it spelled out, folks, the EPA has largely been captured by business interests. So they very rarely stand up for the environment any longer, although that was their stated goal. But as with every regulation coming out of our federal government, they get captured by the corporate industry that they are meant to regulate, and then they are ultimately become meaningless. I mean, you look at the FCC or the SEC. Actually, go watch that documentary, 4-part documentary on Bernie Madoff, if you want to learn how the SEC is really monitoring Wall Street.
And yes, Vicky, Coorey of the EPA. Get it?
Coorey.
Okay.
Not Coopery.
That was a callback.
I know a callback.
I'll explain it later.
Thank you.
So basically, this decision is based on what the EPA says was there was scientific and technical records dating back more than 2 decades. I did say it's been a while since this thing first reared its ugly head. That show the mine would unacceptably harm the world's largest commercial sockeye salmon fishery and about 24 Alaska Native villages in the region. And this is obviously due to the environmental devastation that mines are that mines create. Do
you have any special knowledge on the harm that mining does?
Not specifically rare earth minerals, but yes.
No, I meant mining in general.
Yes, mining is horrific. And
Eleanor is the creator of a multiple award-winning film documentary called Hard Road of Hope that has won more awards than I could count. And actually, if you're in or near Germany, they are having a series of screenings of Hard Road of Hope. So check out Eleanor's Instagram to find out if you can attend one of those, because Germany is front and center of the mine battle right now. So.
Yeah, Germany is actually, if you look at European, what do you call it in English?
Creme brulee.
Emissions.
Oh.
If you look at European emissions, the Germany is actually keeper of the largest emissions from coal in the entire European Union. So congrats, congraties. And they just recently signed a deal with Qatar for a bunch of fracked gas. And so the issue of fracking and of coal mining is very central in Germany right now. And of course it is in West Virginia. So I feel like this is a really beautiful time to bring together these issues across borders, because of course capitalists don't give a shit about borders, so why should we? Unless it's, to keep the proles in place. And so this is a really important time to build that solidarity. But anyway, going back to the Pebble Mine project, reading now from the EPA's decision about the they used the Clean Water Act, which I didn't even know we were allowed to use that anymore. But here you go.
Wait, there's a Clean Water Act?
Basically, to limit the use of certain waters in the Bristol Bay watershed as disposal sites for certain discharges of dredged or fill material associated with development of a mine. So basically, what all of that fucking jargon means is that they would be releasing toxic fucking chemicals into Bristol Bay. And I don't know, I guess the EPA thought that, wow, maybe that would fuck some shit up. Like, not just salmon,
But what's impressive
but
is
like entire ecosystems.
what's impressive is the EPA cared.
That's my point. I like this is so and the EPA even said, wow, that's remarkable. This is the EPA trying to tell their overlords, look, we're not going to do this that much. And I quote,
We're not going to do this that much.
in the 50-year history of the Clean Water Act, EPA has used this authority judiciously. This action marks the third time in 30 years and only the 14th time in the history of the Clean Water Act that EPA has used this authority. End quote. They're basically saying, like, look, guys,
that is amazing.
We just did this thing here because it's so fucked up, but we're not gonna like do it often or anything.
That is amazing that they were willing to like admit, and almost as if they're bragging, like, listen, we don't ever do our job, but just to let you know, we did it this time and it won't happen again soon. I mean, 3 times in 30 years, next time will be 10 years from now. Please don't have us offed.
Yeah.
Please don't whack us.
It says, quote, this action.
Please don't make us sleep with the sockeye.
This action does not apply to any other resource development projects in the state of Alaska. We're not coming for any other mine project. And then, of course, and I saw that somebody wrote in the comment section, wow, this makes me suspicious. You have every right to be suspicious. But here's the thing. The sockeye salmon, the Bristol Bay watershed produces approximately half of the world's sockeye salmon, generating an estimated $2.2 billion in 2019 alone.
There's some money there.
So this is a capitalist issue.
There's some money.
I would like to wager, even though I'm not a betting woman, I would like to wager, however, that if the salmon weren't pulling their weight in the capitalist market, they'd be fucking fish food.
God. Did you have to do that?
They'd be fucked. And the Pebble Mine project would be moving forward.
So you're saying if this was a rare pheasant that lived there and there were only 3 left and they lived there, you're saying that the EPA probably would not have taken.
The sun would be setting on those pheasants. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I like that the EPA tries to make it sound like they give a shit about Indigenous rights too. They're like, home to 25 Alaska Native villages and communities. Like, you don't fucking give a shit. Like, you have never cared about the rights of Indigenous peoples. So don't give me this, it's the Alaska Native villages. It is clearly the $2.2 billion industry and not much else.
By the way, and I didn't actually read the article, this New York Times article, so I can't speak to any propaganda that may be within it. But this time, EPA blocks long disputed mine project in Alaska, and you'd think it'd be pretty easy to show a photo of the horrific damage that mining does, just in general. Mm-hmm. Here's the one photo of mining in the New York Times,
which kind of looks
nice, and you got sunshine. You got a real rugged guy.
Well, it kind of looks like a submission to like a photography contest.
Yeah.
Well, what I did here was I was really exploring the contrasts of
right.
That's what it looks like. Another good point. The propaganda of journalism goes for photojournalism too.
Right.
And so there's people are saying that this is going to go to court, but it's unlikely that the Pebble Limited Partnership will get anywhere, because this is pretty what's it? This is pretty like
Sealed shut.
Sealed shut. Thank you. I was trying to say locked tight, but that didn't feel right. This is pretty sealed because of the Clean Water Act and
This is
because of the
pretty
EPA.
locked down, concretified.
It's bungee corded down
with Silence of the Lambs mask tied
and
Houdini chains
Velcro.
and Velcro.
Got
Got it.
Which goes to show you, like, if the EPA were to use its power more often, then there would be way less that people could do in court to fight their decisions because of the power that they could wield, which they themselves have said that they're not going to wield. So basically, this is fantastic news, but it is also a reminder that we have to really push for this shit because, again, if it weren't for that $2.2 billion industry, I doubt the EPA would have given a flying fuck.
Well, the multi-billion-dollar industry and the activists who called everyone's attention to that industry, to the sockeye, to the reality of the situation. So, those activists that have been standing up for years now, fighting this thing for years, they deserve the credit, really.
As always, yes.
All right, let's get to, and I know this is your favorite story. This is a new update on what's being done in U.S. prisons. We've talked about U.S. prisons before. They're uniquely horrific. The reality in U.S. prisons is covered on mainstream media almost never. I just looked up the more current numbers. I've often talked about how the U.S. is the largest prison state in the world, but in the past couple of years, I think roughly 2 to 3 years, we have decreased. We've released something like 400,000 prisoners, and we're now the 6th largest per capita, I think, and the 2nd largest per sheer number.
And so that doesn't fit on one of those foam fingers.
I could get one. I could get one made.
A 6?
Yeah. It's a 6 finger. Yeah, perfect. Nailed it.
Got it.
So we released 400,000 prisoners, which they should have been released. All nonviolent, all served plenty of time.
Was this because of the pandemic? Or
I think a certain percentage was connected to the pandemic, the overcrowding connected to the pandemic, but I think for other reasons as well. There's been some changes in the drug laws, changes in various states in marijuana laws, things like that. But so we released 400,000 prisoners, and that just brought us down to the 2nd most in the world. Like, that's how large the U.S. prison state is. And I don't even know if actually 2nd is correct. We might actually be 1st because we claim the 1st is China, and it's quite possible we're just fucking lying because we make up most.
Who are getting those? Who's in charge of?
We make up most of those numbers, but also China has 3 times the number of people we do. So wait, no, way more than 3 times. Sorry, 4.5, 5 times as many people as we do.
I don't do the math, so you just you're on your own.
That's why I didn't call on you. So anyway, the idea that we're still the biggest prison state in that regard. China has way more people, and so even if they have more people in prison, that would make sense. But anyway, we have this uniquely horrific prison state, and here's a fun new update on something in our prison state.
Oh wait, I thought okay.
This is not okay?
I thought you were going to do yours first.
No, this is yours.
Oh, okay.
Oh, mine about comb your hair. All right, we can because these 2 stories are connected in terms of
the horrificness of them.
I believe it's horrificity. Louisiana has been deliberately, again, this is New York Times propaganda. They're trying to lighten it a little. Deliberately indifferent. No, they've deliberately been keeping, get rid of the word fucking indifferent. They've been deliberately keeping inmates past release dates, the Justice Department has just said. Meaning Louisiana, which, by the way, is, I think, the most terrible in terms of percentages of human beings. Louisiana doesn't have that many people compared to like California, but in terms of per capita,
conditions.
in terms of per capita, Louisiana is one of the worst, if not the worst state in the U.S. for prisons. Per capita people there, the amount of racism that goes on, etc. And they don't even care that when people are told they're supposed to be released, they just keep them. And this serves multiple purposes. One is there's prison labor, which is essentially slavery that they can use them for. Another is that if there's one state that likely has, I haven't looked it up, but likely has the contracts with private prisons saying they have to have a certain number of people in there, then they don't want to get the fines that are involved. They'll owe millions of dollars if they don't have enough people in the prisons. So instead, they just keep people in there. But yeah, it's. I mean, I guess it's not surprising. I mean, essentially, our prison system is designed. It's not designed to rehabilitate people and get them back into society. It's designed to throw them away as human beings.
Absolutely. And I mean, people might be familiar with like Angola prison in Louisiana, which has long had a reputation, much like Rikers, for being absolutely fucking awful, similar to Gitmo. And these are the kind of places where people are being kept longer than they should have been. I mean, even their sentences are, for the most part, absolutely ridiculous. And then being kept past that just because, who gives a shit? These people aren't people.
Yeah, they're non-humans.
So it doesn't matter, which is of course the concept that this country was founded on. Of course, I said of course a lot. I think it's because I'm like, my brain goes faster than my mouth, and so my mouth tries to keep up by just throwing extra words out there, and so I say shit like of course far more often than I need to.
Of course you do.
But yeah, so this is indicative of that system that goes back to genocide and slavery, the founding of this nation. And this is, of course.
Now you're gonna.
Okay,
now every time you say,
every time I say, of course, I owe you $1.
Punch my in the face.
So, and this is, now I lost my train of thought.
Of course you do. This is indicative of something.
Of that system that's founded on genocide and slavery. And you can just look at the makeup of prisons. Non-white populations, predominantly Black, Hispanic.
Predominantly poor.
Well, that too, because you can end up in jail just for being poor because you can't pay for whatever the stupid fucking fine is that got you in jail in the first place.
Can't pay for the fine, can't pay for the bail, but most importantly, can't pay for a team of lawyers that will find some fucking loophole to get you off no matter what. This justice system in this country is crazy rigged. Crazy. People do not understand what goes on in our courtrooms. If you have money, and a lot of people understand this aspect, if you have money, you will get off of just about everything, because a jury cannot handle a team of fucking 50 lawyers all running intellectual laps around them, gaslighting them until they believe a killer is a fucking nun. So it's if you don't have that money, then every one of these little procedural things, every appeal and everything, none of it will happen correctly if it happens at all. And so our justice system is a money justice system, similar to our democracy. We have a democracy that is completely rigged by money. And we have a justice system that is completely rigged by money. And if you don't have that money, then you will end up in prison. If anything is brought up, if the police arrest you for anything, you will get stuck in prison.
Yeah, and so many places still have cash bail systems, and so you could just be stuck in jail because you can't put up the bail that's required to get out of jail. 2
countries have cash bail systems. All other countries, there's some with like a slight amalgamation or a slight nuanced kind of thing, but for the most part, U.S. and Philippines are the only ones that allow you to, or really force you to stay in prison because you can't afford to get out.
Because justice.
Because #justice. So in that same storyline, let's get to another update on the amazing U.S. prison system.
This is not The Onion, by the way. I feel like I should preface that with almost every story we cover these days.
A lot of our stories seem onion-esque, which I used to work for, so I should know.
I should know. So,
read it for yourselves.
For those who aren't watching this and are listening and are just on pins and needles wondering what fucked up thing I'm about to share now, I quote, "An inhumane proposed Massachusetts bill would allow prisoners to trade organs for reduced sentences."
And I don't think they mean musical instruments.
Well, that'd be pretty fucking cool. Were they like whittling in there? No, literally, prisoners. This bill hasn't been passed. It's been brought forward as a potential, and anywhere from 60 days to 365 days if the individual donates bone marrow or organs. Wait.
I just need to sit in silence. I have no response.
The politicians behind the bill say that the legislation would lead, quote, wait for it, it would, quote, restore bodily autonomy to incarcerated folks. I feel like, you know what, like as a woman, and the topic of bodily autonomy is very important to me. I feel like what's standing between me and the true nirvana of bodily autonomy is my ability to trade my liver for 2 months
for a pack of
time
cigarettes.
off.
Pack of cigarettes. I love how they try and make these things seem somehow woke. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if they put something in the bill where it's like, and black prisoners who give away their organs get double time off.
Well, and of course, this is, as I mentioned, being the fact being that the majority of incarcerated folks are non-white. Someone brought up the point, and I like the way that they phrased this, such a nice way of phrasing it, quote, "It could be perceived as harvesting organs from black people to give to others, which could be a question of exploitation." It's kind
of like how Louisiana was indifferent to whether people should be allowed to leave the prisons. They were indifferent.
Yeah.
They weren't kidnapping them, fucking imprisoning them when their time is up.
So, I mean, there's
could be perceived.
There's just all of the things.
Can you please read that again?
Yes. It could be perceived as harvesting organs from black people to give to others, which could be a question of exploitation. Could be.
Again, can everyone just let that sit? Just stop and think about that for a second. Jesus.
So, yeah. So basically, there's everything wrong with this, right? Also, the fact that that people in prison tend to not be healthy because they're fucking in cages, and so going through the process of donating bone marrow or giving up a fucking organ could very likely kill you, because these are not low risk or no risk operations or
right
to begin with, even if it were somebody who has like a great bill of health. But then you take somebody who has spent I don't know how many years or time in a fucking cage, and nobody suggests that living in prison is good for you. And so then you push these people to go under the knife so that they can get out of these cages earlier, and there's not going to be any repercussions to their health. Not to mention, what are the organs that you're harvesting looking like? I mean, are like, would this even be, just to be a fucking morbid asshole for a second, are you even getting good organs, or are you just stealing organs from incarcerated folks because you have nothing better to do on a fucking Tuesday? And so,
quote of the day.
Like, this is so, and also I mean, I sometimes I wish I could be a fly on the wall, just so like could hear human beings talking about this like they're fucking serious. Who was the asshole that decided it was between 60 days and 365 days? And what is a kidney worth? How many days is that worth? Like, I just, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then, of course, another aspect, again, all of this is fucked, but another aspect that is totally fucked is part of the issue if you're going to be an organ donor. And I have a friend who needs an organ, and so I've learned more about this recently. There has to be a long process of making sure that people have the right medical history, making sure that that everyone's transparent about what's expected, what could happen, which I don't know. I feel like nobody ever tells the truth to incarcerated folks. Everyone, I
Right.
mean, so the idea that they
We-
get
we-
to sit down with a doctor who would be totally honest and forthright
the
with
U.S.
them.
The U.S. has a history of doing medical tests on incarcerated folks against their will or lying to them about what's happening. Of course, the Tuskegee syphilis testing, the MK Ultra. It's horrific what's done to the people in our prisons against their will. And as you mentioned, they don't get good health care there to begin with. John Kiriakou, the former CIA officer who's now very anti-CIA, but he spent time in prison for revealing our torture program, the existence of the U.S. torture program. And he said that while he was in there, he had a lot of tooth pain and he went to the prison dentist. And the prison dentist looked in his mouth and said, "Oh, wow, you clearly come from some money because you have fillings and things, like your teeth have been looked after." He goes, "Well, in that case, I'll fill this cavity." He goes, "Normally what we do is we just take the tooth out because these are prisoners. They don't matter. They haven't had good dental work maybe previously in their life. So fuck it. Just not rip the teeth out." Like, just it's inhumane, insanity, and it's yet again just how a system works where everything is about profit. There is no care for humanity. It is a spiritual void that just complete vacant dark abyss in the spiritual center of this society.
Wow, powerfully put.
Okay.
I was just going to say that there is, because of our fucked up healthcare system, there is a crisis in this country with regards to transplants. There are over 100,000 people waiting for a transplant. 17 people a day in the U.S. die on the waiting list. So there is a dire shortage of organs. This is not how you address that shortage.
Yeah.
Obviously, how you initially address that shortage is to actually have a healthcare system that puts more importance on preventative care, so that you have fewer people who end up needing fucking organs because they've actually had access to healthcare before their organs shut down. But also this, the quote about harvesting organs from Black folks, non-white people actually have an even harder time getting access to organs that they need. And I just wanted to share this one number. In 2020, for example, the number of transplants performed on white people was 47.6% of the number waiting. For Black people, that was 27.7% of people waiting.
So that probably comes down
double.
to various levels of systemic racism. Right. Either the hospitals deciding that Black people's lives matter less, or also sometimes, it's been proven that Black people often get poor care in hospitals because the doctors ignore their complaints because there is a subconscious racism of like, well, a Black person doesn't really know what they're talking about. But then on top of that, you have a lot of Black people that are afraid to question the doctor because they've been told that maybe questioning authority in that situation is wrong. And, the most famous example of this, I think, nowadays is that Serena Williams said after giving birth, she was, I can't remember exactly what was wrong with her, but she was complaining about something, and the doctor said, "Oh, no, it's not a big deal." And she had to keep complaining and finally insisted and then they did what was needed that ultimately saved her life.
And that's Serena Williams.
And that's Serena Williams. That's one of the richest, most famous people on the planet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got to go to rumble.com/LeeCamp. It's completely free to watch there. Join us at rumble.com/LeeCamp. That's what I have to do now that I am the most censored comedian in America. My old YouTube page with 250,000 subscribers is gone, is banned globally just for being anti-war, anti-imperialist. So please, join us over there. It helps grow my channel there. It helps in a lot of ways, even if you don't have the time to actually stay and finish watching the rest of the live stream with us. But we have a bunch more news coming up on Cuba. We have an update on Atlanta, and we have more. So join us at rumble.com/LeeCamp. That's rumble.com/LeeCamp. We will see you over there in just a couple of seconds. And if you're watching there right now, nothing will change. Just give me...
Nothing will significantly change.
Doesn't that sum up America? Doesn't that sum up our situation?